What's going on, guys? It's Jordan over here from Rushing Productions. I wanted to get my initial thoughts on the Crane 3 Lab. Can we just call it Crane 3 because that's a long name, and yeah, we're just going to call it Crane 3 from now on. So the Crane 3 has recently been released. The first initial orders are being sent out right now as we speak. I was somehow one of the lucky ones and got my order right away, which was super nice. It came here right before the snowstorm, so I was really lucky. So just a little background, I'm a wedding videographer, and I do 100% of my work with a glide cam, or at least I did. I've been looking at switching over to a gimbal for a while now, and I felt like now is probably the best time. I had seen the Ronin S. It seemed like a really good, competent gimbal, but there's still some stuff that was missing, in my opinion, that would make me want to switch over to the gimbal system instead of a Steadicam system. And then in popped in the Crane 3 Lab, and I was pretty much blown away by it. It had basically every single check mark that I would want in a gimbal, and that would actually get me away from the Steadicam world. So I promptly sold my Steadicam, just got mine in yesterday, and so now I'm just going to give you my initial thoughts on it all. I think everyone agrees the design of the Crane 3 is vastly different. It's almost like a hybrid of a Ronin M and a Ronin S. It allows you to have a much more stable shot, just because of the way that your hands are positioned. Instead of up and down like a lightsaber or baseball bat, you have a little bit of separation, which is really handy. First and foremost is briefcase mode. I love briefcase mode. Coming from a glide cam world, it's a lot harder to quickly transition to a low shot and keeping that stable as well, which is always a pain in the butt. With this, I can turn on the gimbal and rotate the gimbal down, and boom, it's in briefcase mode. Super simple, super convenient, and I love those kinds of shots. I love a different perspective in my shots. So this was a huge reason why I wanted to switch over to the Crane 3. Ergonomics, it leads into the first points. It's super comfortable. It's less weight than what my glide cam was. I had the glide cam HD 2000. I want to say it's a little bit less than that gimbal, which is surprising. A solid craftsmanship. It's very well made. I actually got the cell phone holder the day before the actual gimbal and opened it up and was just blown away just by the quality of it. It's complete metal. It's heavy. It's got a great feeling to it. They definitely did all around, just from the cell phone holder to the gimbal itself. They really have put in the extra effort in making this a quality product that I think would actually last a long time. You have access to basically all the buttons that you would need right at your fingertips. Literally, they're all right there. It's very convenient. Once you actually get used to where the actual buttons are, you're able to switch into whatever mode you want to be in, literally like that. Kind of like a Thanos snap. Balancing was pretty straightforward coming from a Steadicam world. There was a little bit of differences than I'm used to. I want to say the first time it took me 30 to 45 minutes just because I'm used to like micro adjustment screws with a glide cam, which I'm kind of surprised that the Crane 3 doesn't actually incorporate being able to do those micro adjustments. Instead, you have to shift the entire bar. The case itself seems to be a nice sturdy case. It's a hard foam plastic combination. It feels like I do have some issues with the case, and so much so that I probably honestly won't be using it, but I'll get into that with the cons. I think for me, if I have my wife on a job with me and I need her to get a shot because I'm off on a tripod shot, I am fairly confident that she could easily get the shot that she needed, which is very convenient for me and my production company for sure. Now, so as far as the cons, just right off the bat, the case. Well, like I said, the case is a good material. It seems like it would be sturdy and be able to actually protect the gimbal itself. But there's at least one major issue that is going to probably prevent me from using it in the future. And that's when you're putting it away, you have to actually shift the gimbal and the sliders, the three different sliders, into a very specific place. If you don't, then unfortunately it's not going to actually fit in the case, and they don't give you any wiggle room at all, which means that unlike my Steadicam beforehand, I can't just pick it up, put my camera on there, do a very quick balance, and go. With this, I'm going to have to put it into its travel spacing, put it in the case. When I bring it back out, I have to then put my camera on and then rebalance the entire thing, which again, once you get it past like the first and second time, yes, it'll go faster, but it's still nowhere near as fast as balancing on my GlideCam. It's not, which is unfortunate because I do like the case. I like the design. I like that it has holes for all of the different products, all the way through the creator pack. The second thing is, for me, a huge issue if you want to do any vast customizations of the gimbal or you want to use your cell phone as a secondary screen, which was a big deal for me when I was choosing to get this gimbal. The app, it seems like it's still in beta. And there are definitely issues that are plaguing the app where it has trouble most of the time, 75% of the time, connecting to the gimbal itself and being able to transmit the display. And I know that has nothing to do with the camera that I have. It's literally just the connection to the gimbal, which is unfortunate. It's definitely very similar to what I use, the DJI drone app. I'm very used to that app, and that one is definitely more streamlined. It's able to connect to the drone very quickly, and there's not very many questions. Now, I know in previous iterations, the DJI drone app used to have a lot of issues, and it still is plagued with issues, but by and large, nowhere near as much as what I've seen with the ZY Play app. They definitely need to do some work on that app. And just to give you a quick couple of examples, there's still a submenu that has it written in, it's Chinese. I don't know if it's Mandarin or simplified Chinese. And like I said before, it has issues connecting to the actual gimbal. I have updated the gimbal twice, maybe 3 times. It's kind of hard to tell because every single time I connect, it says that there's an update available, even though I've already updated to that particular version. So, and again, there's just issues with the connectivity. And then the other real big complaint that I have is the instruction manual. They don't really explain anything. I don't really know what the different modes are, and I could probably search for this online for sure, but just to be able to look at the instruction manual that comes with the actual gimbal itself, where it just shows F is follow mode, L is lock mode, V is vortex. I mean, I know what vortex is just because that was one of the big things that I wanted in this gimbal. If someone didn't know what vortex was, they would not know. There's nothing in the instruction manual that explains what the different modes are. I don't know what PE mode is. POV for point of view, I don't know. I'm trying to understand them without really having to look online, and maybe that's my problem that I haven't looked online, but again, I feel like that should just be in the instruction manual. The other thing is that the buttons themselves, like there's 2 buttons on the front that if I hadn't have read the instruction manual, I would not have found at all. It was completely hidden, and I thought they were just bumper guards on the front of the gimbal, but they're actually buttons to change the different mode. It doesn't work 100% with my camera. My camera is the Canon T7i, or the 800D if you're international. And it seems to handle it for the most part, but the front scroll wheel doesn't seem to work as far as changing the ISO or the aperture. But if I connect my phone to the gimbal, then I'm actually able to change the aperture and the ISO and the shutter speed. So I know that it's able to do it. Just for some reason, the gimbal isn't 100% updated. They haven't added that feature yet. Perhaps the gimbal is just lacking in versions compared to the actual phone app. Who knows? But I will say, just being able to connect the camera to the gimbal and use that follow focus wheel is awesome. It worked at least for my Canon 51.8 and my Tamron 24-70. It didn't seem to work for my Tamron 70-200, and I'm not sure why. There's some distinction between the 24-70 and the 70-200. Both of them are the G2 variety, so there doesn't seem to be anything that should change those, but for some reason it does. The one thing that I'm still missing on my order is the two motors for the focus and the zoom. So I'll definitely update with a follow-up video once I actually get those installed. Also, I did try to actually balance the 780 to 200 on the gimbal. I was for the most part able to get it to balance. I wasn't 100% just because of how far the camera has to sit back to have the balance. But I will say it was very interesting when I shifted from 70 millimeters to like 150 millimeters. The lenses internally backed up and the whole camera went backwards. And that unfortunately just threw the entire gimbal out of balance. So this is something that has been baffling me. For the Crane 3, for some reason, it just shuts off. And I don't know if that means I just have a defective unit or if this is just a preventative thing that they've included in the Crane 3. So it's not just constantly shaking, it just shuts off. So that's another con for me. And like I said, I'm going to follow back up once I get the focus and the zoom motors, because I'm very curious as to what's going to happen when I do have it do a tighter versus a wide. If that's going to really throw off the motors of the gimbal, is it just going to shut off every single time that I actually zoom in, which really negates the purpose of being able to do the zoom. So we'll see. I am hopefully optimistic. So I think that might be it as far as this quick initial thoughts. I know that there's a lot of questions that people probably have on this gimbal, so feel free to leave them in the comments below, and I'll try and either address them there or in a future video. Until next time, guys.